A single bare ring finger, a cropped family photo, a scrubbed social media profile. The cameras flashed, the internet froze, and just like that, a single question dominated the headlines. Is this the end of Britain's golden television couple?
It really highlights how quickly, digital detectives assemble when a seemingly perfect life shows even a tiny fracture.
Right, exactly. Welcome to Starscope Report. Join us as we uncover Hollywood drama, music industry shakeups, and viral influencer scandals. From red carpet surprises to social media controversies, we dive deep into the stories behind the fame.
And today we're doing a deep dive into the viral YouTube headline that basically sent millions of fans into an absolute tailspin. Stacey Solomon, the end.
Yeah, we've gathered a massive stack of sources for this deep dive. So we're looking at reports from the BBC, the Mirror, the Liverpool Echo, and a frankly really scathing TV review from The Guardian. The mission today is to figure out what is actually happening behind the gates of Pickle Cottage.
Are they quietly splitting up? Are they, dramatically pivoting their empires? Or is the public just completely misreading the clues? It's a lot more nuanced than just a tabloid headline.
Oh, totally. Because we really have to look past the sensational stuff and examine, well, the psychology of modern fame, British marriage laws, and even the complex realities of raising a huge family.
Exactly. So let's establish the timeline of this initial pairing. We're looking at the digital landscape in March and April of 2026.
Right. A massive segment of the internet becomes utterly convinced that Stacey Solomon and Joe Swash have just quietly called it quits. And to understand the gravity of this rumor, you really have to remember who we're dealing with here.
Yeah, they are essentially British reality television royalty at this point.
I mean, they met back in 2010 on I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here, which Stacey won, by the way. They started dating in 2016, and over the past decade, they've built this massive, highly publicized blended family.
Right, they're managing a household of 6 children. So you have Zachary, Leighton, Rex, Rose, Belle, and Harry, and they're all living together in their famous, 1.2 million pound Essex home.
Pickle Cottage.
Pickle Cottage, exactly. They represent the ultimate modern family success story, which, makes the sudden influx of these perceived red flags feel super jarring for their audience.
And the breadcrumbs that sparked this frenzy actually started in the physical world before they migrated online. Paparazzi spotted Stacey leaving BBC studios on, like, multiple separate occasions, and her left hand was completely bare.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. The wedding ring was conspicuously absent.
And in the celebrity ecosystem, a missing ring is, well, it's the traditional smoking gun. It's that immediate visual cue that tabloids rely on to launch a whole speculative divorce cycle.
Oh, instant divorce cycle. But that was only the beginning. Shortly after the paparazzi photos circulated, Mother's Day arrived. And Stacey posted this beautifully staged family photo featuring herself and all 6 of the kids. But she completely excluded Joe from the frame.
Wait,
Completely cropped out. And the caption she selected simply read, "My life's work."
I mean, labeling your children as your life's work while visibly omitting your husband, that sends a very specific, easily misinterpreted message to an audience that is literally trained to analyze every digital interaction for hidden meaning.
Right. And then the narrative just compounded. Joe attended the TV Choice Awards, which is a major industry event where couples usually walk the red carpet together. But he went with his stepson Zachary instead of Stacey.
Okay, I can see why people were talking.
Yeah, and the culmination for the internet sleuths came when Joe altered his Instagram profile picture. He swapped out a massive family portrait for a selfie featuring only himself and his son Rex. He dropped Stacey from his primary digital identity entirely.
Wow. Fans must have started scrutinizing everything.
Oh, every single historical post. They were operating under the strict assumption that the marriage was functionally over.
We are witnessing a textbook example of really intense parasocial bonding here. The public projects their own anxieties onto these figures. Stacey and Joe have essentially invited millions of people into their living room through, daily phone updates and reality TV broadcasts.
Right.
And over time, that constant access breeds a profound sense of psychological ownership within the audience.
They feel like they're passive members of the family. Following a modern celebrity relationship is often treated like an interactive digital escape room. People are frantically searching for clues in the negative space. The cropped photos, the bare fingers, the shifted profile pictures.
Yeah, it's exhausting.
But I have to ask, why do we immediately equate the absence of a ring with a divorce lawyer on speed dial? I mean, people take their rings off to apply hand lotion or to do the dishes, or simply because their fingers swell red.
That's true, but it comes back to the unspoken psychological contract of the influencer era. The unwritten rule is that creators offer absolute, unfiltered transparency in exchange for the audience's loyalty.
I see.
Yeah, so when a brand is entirely predicated on this narrative of chaotic but unwavering domestic stability, any perceived withholding of information feels like a direct betrayal.
It's not just that they might be having marital friction. It's the terrifying idea that the illusion of the perfect pickle cottage is a manufactured lie.
Exactly. The audience panics because their own belief in that fairy tale is threatened.
But wait till you hear what came next. Because the truth about their marriage is wilder than a missing ring or a cropped Instagram photo. And hey, if you're loving these Hollywood twists, make sure you're subscribed. We've got even crazier stories ahead in this deep dive.
So if we accept that the missing ring wasn't, a distress signal, it forces us to ask why it was taken off at all. And the answer to that leads directly to a much larger revelation about the actual legal status of their union.
This is the detail that completely reframes this entire story. Despite the magazine covers and the massive celebration, Stacey and Joe are not actually legally married.
Wait, so the public assumption of their marital status was entirely based on visual evidence, not legal reality.
Yes. Let's look back at July 2022. The couple hosted a lavish, incredibly publicized £1.2 million wedding right on the grounds of Pickle Cottage. It was a massive media event. Mrs. Hinch was a bridesmaid. The ARG band performed. Glossy photographs were syndicated everywhere. It looked in every traditional sense like the wedding of the year.
It was a beautiful ceremony, but it was strictly a religious blessing, wasn't it? It carried absolutely no legal weight under the laws of England and Wales.
Bingo. During the absolute peak of these recent split rumors, Stacey appeared as a guest on This Morning alongside Ben Shepherd and Kat Deely, and she completely laughed off the internet's anxiety. She made a joke on live TV saying, "Maybe I dropped my ring in the lake with our marriage."
That's hilarious.
She clarified she probably just took it off to wash her hands. But the subsequent factual reveal is what stunned people. That gorgeous 2022 wedding does not result in a marriage certificate.
And the underlying reason for this is such a fascinating collision between archaic British marriage laws and modern celebrity security concerns.
How so?
Well, in England and Wales, obtaining a civil marriage license requires the wedding venue to be officially registered and approved by the local authority. And a crucial stipulation of that registration is that the venue must be a public space, or at the very least, readily available to the general public for the solemnization of marriages.
Meaning that to legally marry at their own home, they would have had to apply to make Pickle Cottage a publicly accessible venue.
Right.
And for two incredibly famous TV personalities, opening their private family sanctuary to the public means legally opening the gates to the paparazzi, tabloid journalists, and potential stalkers.
Exactly. They were forced into a really difficult compromise. They prioritized the immediate physical security of their blended family over executing the legal paperwork on that specific day.
They did release a statement at the time saying they'd register it legally at a registry office at a later date. But 4 years and several more kids later, they simply haven't got round to it.
Which stunned the public, because Stacey Solomon's entire television persona is built on being the ultimate, hyper-organized, sort-your-life-out domestic queen.
Right. She is famous for color coordinating her pantry and organizing other people's chaos, yet she hasn't finalized her own marriage certificate.
But I mean, if you throw a £1 million party, exchange vows in front of your loved ones, and successfully raise 6 children under one roof, does a piece of government paper fundamentally alter the reality of that commitment?
That's a fair point.
It's similar to purchasing a high-end luxury sports car, maintaining it perfectly and driving it every single day, but never getting around to screwing on the official license plates. The relationship is still functioning perfectly well without the state's official stamp of approval.
Culturally, you're absolutely right. But while the daily reality of their family life remains unchanged, the state views the absence of those proverbial license plates very differently. Without that legal registration, they lack automatic protections regarding next-of-kin medical decisions, inheritance tax exemptions, and asset division.
Oh, that's true. However, you are highlighting a significant modern cultural shift here. Their foundational commitment is validated by their shared daily life, not a legal contract. They rely on the chaos of raising 6 children to define their family, rather than a certificate filed with the local council.
So, legally, The marriage hasn't even officially started, making the rumors of its end somewhat ironic. But later in this deep dive, we'll talk about the shocking professional twist nobody saw coming. Because when the digital detectives realized the romantic partnership wasn't dissolving, they immediately turned their magnifying glasses toward the couple's professional empire.
And the professional dynamic between the two is currently undergoing a massive, highly visible shift. They are actively stepping away from each other on screen, and it is happening simultaneously with some incredibly brutal, high-profile criticism regarding Joe's role in the household.
Up until this point, Stacey and Joe have cultivated a massive joint brand. The crown jewel of their combined media presence is their fly-on-the-wall BBC reality series, Stacey and Joe.
Oh.
The show documents the exact domestic chaos we've been talking about, their lovable, overwhelming life, managing the kids, and the renovations at Pickle Cottage.
Right, their combined dynamic is the core product.
Exactly. But the landscape of that product is changing. The BBC recently announced a major new spin-off of Stacey's immensely popular organization show, Sort Your Life Out. It's a video podcast format titled Sort Your Life Out Unpacked. However, Stacey is not the host of her own spin-off.
Really?
Yeah. Her co-star, Dilly Carter, is taking the lead, while Stacey is stepping back into a guest role.
Interesting. And concurrently, Joe has secured a significant solo project. He is fronting a BBC documentary titled Joe Swash, Britain's Young Dads.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the film explores the complexities of modern fatherhood, masculinity, and the systemic struggles faced by young men raising children, so they are visibly uncoupling in their professional lives.
And the timing of these solo launches proved to be highly combustible, because it coincided with a searing review published in The Guardian by television critic Lucy Mangan.
The Guardian's assessment of their reality series was uncompromising. It targeted the very heart of their domestic dynamic.
Mangan's review essentially reduced Joe to the trope of the utterly useless house husband. The piece highlighted several incredibly stressful sequences from the reality show. It focused on Joe deciding to go out for a long fishing trip at the exact moment Stacey was frantically trying to prep a massive, complex family dinner.
Oh, the timing.
And it highlighted a scene where Joe was tasked with the vacation shopping and completely forgot to pack nappies. It detailed a moment where he left dirty, foul-smelling holiday laundry to rot inside a suitcase stored in their otherwise pristine wardrobe. The review even quoted Stacey fuming to the camera, stating, "The less I know about Joe, the better."
And the public reaction to those broadcasted moments completely fractured the audience. One demographic found Joe's struggles incredibly relatable, viewing him as an authentic representation of a busy parent occasionally dropping the ball.
Right.
But the opposing demographic experienced secondhand stress, viewing his chaotic nature as an unfair burden placed on Stacey's hyper-organized shoulders.
But this is where we need to look closer at the framing. Yeah. I mean, is it objectively fair for a major publication to label him useless? Or are viewers witnessing two people who process the world through fundamentally different neurological frameworks?
That's a vital distinction.
Joe consistently displays an eager, albeit chaotic, golden retriever energy. Stacey operates with an intense, hyper-focused border collie energy. A border collie is naturally going to look at a golden retriever chasing a butterfly and feel frustrated that the sheep aren't being herded. But processing tasks differently doesn't equate to a lack of care for the family.
Absolutely. Analyzing their dynamic without including Joe's specific neurological history results in a deeply flawed, surface-level critique. What the Guardian review frames as simple uselessness or, weaponized incompetence is actually a textbook manifestation of executive dysfunction.
Right, because Joe was formally diagnosed with ADHD as an adult.
Yes. And beyond that, when he was 23 years old, he suffered from a severe, life-threatening case of meningoencephalitis.
For those who might not know the medical specifics, meningoencephalitis is a severe inflammation and swelling of the brain and surrounding tissues.
It is a catastrophic medical event. The swelling was so severe that Joe spent 2 weeks in an intensive care unit. The inflammation impacted his brain to the point where he literally had to relearn how to walk and how to form basic speech.
My gosh, I didn't realize it was that severe.
It was. And when you combine the lasting neurological impacts of severe brain trauma with adult ADHD, it heavily affects the brain's frontal lobe. That is the area responsible for executive functioning. Skills like working memory, task prioritization, and time management.
Which perfectly explains the behavior highlighted on the show. Forgetting the nappies isn't him refusing to help, it's a deficit in working memory. Taking too long on the fishing trip isn't him maliciously avoiding dinner prep, it's a symptom of time blindness. which is a super common ADHD trait, where a person simply cannot gauge the passing of time accurately.
Exactly. And the television producers are fully aware of these differing cognitive approaches, and they actively exploit them in the editing room.
Of course they do.
Reality television requires narrative friction to maintain viewer retention. I mean, if the producers aired 6 hours of Stacey and Joe quietly and efficiently folding laundry, the audience would tune out immediately.
Oh, 100%.
The editors intentionally condense hours of footage to highlight the friction points between his executive dysfunction and her hyperorganization. They lean into the messy husband versus competent wife trope because it sparks debates, it generates tabloid articles, and it drives social media engagement.
They are taking genuine neurological differences and packaging them into a highly digestible reality TV storyline. It is a brilliant production strategy, but you can clearly see how the public consumes that heavily edited reality, combines it with a missing ring, and spins a massive narrative about an impending divorce.
It's the perfect storm for a rumor.
But do you think those solo projects and televised arguments signal the end of their joint empire? Their actual next move completely upends that entire theory.
Yeah, because despite the solo ventures and the harsh critical reviews of their dynamic, their most significant joint venture yet was quietly being developed in the background.
The BBC factual team just officially confirmed that Stacey and Joe was returning for Series 3. But more importantly, the upcoming series centers on their most ambitious, permanent project to date. They aren't splitting up, they are breaking ground on a massive new foundation.
This project directly synthesizes the neurological context we just discussed. Joe has consistently spoken about how fishing serves as a profound, necessary form of therapy for him. It's the environment where his ADHD brain finds genuine calm and focus.
And they were taking that specific coping mechanism and scaling it into a massive infrastructure project. The couple is currently excavating the land right outside the gates of Pickle Cottage to open their own private fishing lake and adjoining glamping site.
Wow.
Yeah. And the stated mission behind this multi-million-pound venture is to create a dedicated therapeutic space for teenagers and young people who are actively struggling with ADHD, executive dysfunction, or other mental health challenges.
It is a brilliant convergence of their individual strength. It utilizes Joe's personal understanding of mental health and therapeutic outdoor activities, combined with Stacey's renowned DIY creativity and project management skills. It transforms their private struggles into a heavily purposed, outward-facing family endeavor.
I mean, think about the practical reality of what they're undertaking. The audience was convinced they were secretly meeting with divorce lawyers. I want you to consider the sheer stress of building a simple piece of flat-pack IKEA furniture with a partner.
It's a nightmare.
Right. Now, scale that up to purchasing heavy machinery, excavating a literal lake, establishing a commercial glamping site, running a mental health initiative, filming a reality television show documenting the entire process, and raising 6 children simultaneously.
It's an unfathomable amount of work.
If a romantic relationship is genuinely failing, you do not buy an excavator and start digging a massive permanent hole in your backyard alongside your partner.
You really don't. A fractured couple does not voluntarily take on a multi-year commercial construction project on their primary residence. This development serves as the ultimate, undeniable rebuttal to the rumors we discussed at the beginning of this deep dive. When the internet was interpreting a cropped photograph as the end of their marriage, Stacey and Joe were literally laying permanent physical foundations in their backyard.
It provides absolute proof of life for their relationship. Stay tuned and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss what we uncover next. Because as we synthesize all these sources, the overarching narrative becomes incredibly clear. The viral Stacey Solomon The End headlines were nothing more than an algorithmic trap.
Yeah, it was pure projection from an audience that demands flawless execution from a family whose very brand is built on navigating authentic, chaotic messes.
The reality of their situation is beautifully messy. It is legally ambiguous. It is relentlessly busy. But all the evidence points to a partnership that is stronger than ever. They don't have the official government marriage certificate, but they have the therapeutic lake, the reality television empire, the 6 children, and the shared vision.
Their current structure is undoubtedly secure. However, looking at the architecture of their lives does raise a fascinating long-term question for the future.
Oh, what are you anticipating down the line?
Well, consider the timeline a decade from now. Currently, the binding agent holding the entire Pickle Cottage empire together is the relentless necessary chaos of survival mode. They are united by the daily demands of raising Zachary, Leighton, Rex, Rose, Belle, and Harry, alongside wrangling the animals and performing for the BBC cameras. But what happens when those 6 children inevitably grow up and move out?
That's a great point.
Without the anchor of constant parenting, and without the daily friction that provides the narrative for their television shows, will their unconventional, legally unbound foundation remain solid? Or will they eventually have to look at each other across an empty, quiet house and figure out how to navigate life as an empty nest couple?
That is an incredible sociological question to leave our listeners with. When the noise finally stops, what remains? We will definitely be watching to see how the next chapter unfolds. You've been listening to Starscope Report, where we uncover the stories shaping Hollywood, music, and pop culture. Thanks for tuning in, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories that keep the stars shining.